still. That is what ESPN initially said. Obviously, certain other journalists have gone as far as to say it's 90% certain he'd leave. We heard from that same journalist of that slide that Partey will hold face-to-face talks with Arteta this week. Arsenal will not increase their contract offer to Partey. However, the offer is still on the table and he has not rejected it. As it stands, it's 90% that Partey leaves Arsenal. So where are we at with that? What is you lot's immediate thinking in relation to that? One of you did mention Barcola. Naturally, I don't think we're going to go and get him. He's got a sweet gig at PSG. Haven't seen anything to actually suggest the man wants to leave. Arsenal, Chelsea, and Bayern Munich have all made approaches for Bradley Barcola lately. However, PSG have closed the door on his departure. Barcola is not happy with his situation at PSG. Not unhappy, apologies, with his situation at PSG slate and wishes to remain at the club. So, I mean, you could make him available if you put an offer far too good to turn down and you convince the player, but probably improbable. In terms of preparing for next season, the Arsenal first team will head to La Manga in Murcia, Spain, for 5 days as part of preseason training after returning to, I'm just going to call that London Coley. There'll be no public matches. That's almost the preseason. Again, journalists are starting to pour into the Sesko debate. You would have seen in the last 24 hours, and let me know your thoughts. Bayern Munich apparently are discussing a potential transfer for Arsenal's Martinelli. Not sure if I believe that, but we'll see. AC Milan apparently are taking a shine with Zinchenko. Aston Villa sporting director Igel Tar has held talks with the reps of Zinchenko. Milan appreciate the player and could close a deal for a figure under 20 million euros. The only obstacle would be Zinchenko's high wages and his reasoning with a wage cut. Now, to be fair, you probably will earn handsome wages, not what you're on at the moment at Arsenal, obviously, but you'll earn something good as a professional footballer at AC Milan, would you not? You know, you learn that. You're playing for a big club, you're playing in a lovely country, you're going to play a lot of football. I don't know, because AC Milan have been linked with him before, but they look like they might sell Mr. Hernandez to Al Hilal, who's a fullback. So is that where the rumors are coming from? I don't know. But Zinchenko's on big wages. We need to get a fee. There was no way on God's green earth we was getting anything close to the initial fee we was getting. I believe he's 27, contracted until 2026, probably on 100+ K wages. It's not making sense. Unless there's a bit of, negotiating in that regards. Again, in relation to what you just saw there with Martinelli coming out of Sky Germany, I don't doubt it, but I mean, it might have floated about him. But as I've said in the previous vid, Martinelli's been linked with Bayern Munich, Gakpo's been linked with Man United, with Bayern Munich, Gittins has been linked with Bayern Munich, Nico Williams has been linked with Bayern Munich. So is there any real credibility in those Martinelli links? I don't know. Rodrigo, John Cross of the Daily Mirror has said Rodrigo remains a top priority for Arsenal, and it now remains to be seen whether they can progress on it and get encouragement, or have to look elsewhere. Real Madrid would demand in excess of 70 million, and there's a belief they may be willing to do business. Now, that's no different or not too dissimilar from what we've previously heard with these Rodrigo links. Yes, every game he does, or every minute he does or doesn't play for Real Madrid, especially around this Club World Cup, is going to add fuel to the fire. It comes down to the money. You put the bread down, you give the guy the wages, whether that breaks your wage structure and all of that stuff. I'm not saying it's not without sense, but at the end of the day, how do you get to these players? You got a couple of options. You either get these Rodrigos and any decent player that you can think of, or top class player, before they become household names. That's down to scouting, or you pay the going rate. It's down to the club. We need to fix our wages, clearly. I'm not a pocket watcher, but, Zinchenko, I'm sure they want to shave his wages. Partey is more of a sporting decision, as to why we want to keep him. But from a financial position, that's 200 grand wages saved plus. I don't even want to add fuel to the fire with you lot and start talking about Gabriel, Jesus, or Kai Havertz, but you can get the picture being painted. Graham Bailey apparently said Andrea Berta has been doing a lot of work in the background on a deal for Rodrigo in recent weeks, attempting to understand the makeup of a potential transfer, and preliminary talks have taken place with the players' reps. It's understood Real Madrid's hierarchy have made it clear that should they be willing to sell, they will be realistic with their valuation and would accept around 70 million. And even if they think he could be worth closer to 100 million. So it sounds a lot. It's more of a dream. It's sounding like it makes sense. There's a willingness to let him go. They're willing to be flexible. Naturally, if Real Madrid ever make Rodrigo available, whether these clubs, will get involved. But you would imagine Man City would at least listen to what's being done. United the same. Whether these clubs are going to go for them or can get them or not. We all know if a player of this caliber becomes available, PSG, well, obviously not Barcelona, but the PSGs, Arsenal, Chelsea, City, Liverpool, Man United, etc., etc. They're all going to get involved. My point of saying that is to say this: if you're Real Madrid and you've made it clear that the man's going to go, you don't necessarily care where he goes. And if you are willing to accept 70 million, but 3, 4 clubs are involved, it's going to drive up the price, isn't it? Arsenal are open to Rodrigo taking a spot amongst their highest earners, even if new deals for Saliba and Saka break the 300k a week threshold. I mean, we've got to be prevalent with wages, but if we want to be a big club, we have to be prepared to pay big players big wages. We've shown we're prepared to give people handsome contracts, whether it's the caliber is another thing. But it just sounds a lot. It just sounds positive, more positive than it should be. And this is a move that the best of days is probably going to drag out. Madueke links have resurfaced. Arsenal have been speaking to Chelsea about a potential move for Noni Madueke. Chelsea want 50 million for the player, which is not a price Arsenal want to go to right now. There's a possibility a deal may be revived later in the summer. We're saying deadline day player from Chelsea who plays out wide. There's still a 10 million euros gap between Arsenal and Leipzig on Benjamin Sesko that has nevertheless developed into a game of chicken as the two clubs seek to get the best deal possible. Arsenal have been seeking to do a deal on installments that currently comes to around 70 million euros. Come on, you lot are being greedy, man. You're being greedy, man. Just take that and go, man. So how far does the interest, pardon me, go in a Gyokeres if we took that for gospel? Some clubs received calls from Rodrigo's entourage inquiring whether they would be in the market for a forward this summer. Arsenal plans to attempt the transfer in August, not in July, you see. This will be a complex, drawn-out operation, player open to Arsenal and City. Okay, go for Rodrigo as much as you want. Make sure there's some more, quote-unquote, realistic left-back addition options, because I don't want to hear we tried. Anywho, people, if he was to leave, 90 million. So we're seeing as low as 70 and as high as 100 million. All depends where you want to read. Apparently, once again, on the theme with Sesko, Arsenal, our club, are growing frustrated with Benjamin Sesko, and negotiations are not going smoothly due to his wage demands. It's wage demands today. Over the weekend, it was he wants a release clause. Who really knows in this grand scheme of things? What's this? So yeah, as I said, there's still a 10 million pound or euros gap in valuation apparently between Leipzig and Arsenal. What's this? While Sesko's release clause comes to just over 80 million euros, Arsenal have been seeking to do a deal on installments that currently comes to around 70 million euros. Leipzig so far haven't budged, but the Arsenal hierarchy are aware the Bundesliga club have a pressure to sell, given that they did not secure Champions League football for next season. Sporting's Viktor Gyokeres remains an option, with Arsenal essentially discussing both potential deals simultaneously. Arsenal have also been speaking to Chelsea about a potential move for Noni Madueke, as the Stamford Bridge hierarchy anticipate another summer of high activity. Yeah. I don't know, man. Nathan Butler Adeje was linked with Studgras, and now he's been linked with Lausanne Sport, who I think, is it Switzerland, Austria, one of those clubs? I really should read the article. So yeah, man. Tired of hearing about Rodrigo, if I'm honest. We know Gyokeres is leaving Sporting. Arsenal and United have been the two that have been linked. Monday's edition of reports, basically various reports out of Portugal, are claiming Arsenal want Gyokeres for the preseason trip to Asia. To try and achieve that, it's claimed the Gunners are preparing to make another offer for the Sweden international. Of course, their first offer was said to only be verbal and worth 55 million euros plus 10 million euros in bonuses. 1 minute is verbal, then no offers have been placed, then we've placed offers, so on and so forth, people, man, like and everything in between for that matter. So who knows? Mikel Arteta is described as pushing for the striker to be signed in time for the Asia tour so he can work with him ahead of the new season. Now, is it a game of chicken? Arsenal going for Gyokeres. Arsenal won it before pre-season. The Sesko thing is dragging. Is it a game of chicken? Because actually what's going on in the world of football and what these journalists who are essentially story writers are saying could be something very different. I don't know, people. So yeah, them rumors there are not going to go away. I did read this in an earlier stream. I won't bore you lot with that again. We've gone over Rodrigo again, but come on, like, just sign the guy. If not, Arsenal are preparing a new offer for Gyokeres as they intensify their pursuit of his signature. Is there anything new here? We know about the goals he scored. We've just gone over the preseason thing. Tell us Lionel Messi wants to sign for us. Football transfers apparently can reveal that Arsenal accelerating their move for Ajax defender João Hato. We were told that talks are scheduled for this week between the club's officials and the players' reps as the Gunners look to wrap up one of the most impressive defensive signings of the summer. Sources have confirmed to Football Transfers that positive dialogue has already taken place and a face-to-face meeting is expected to take place on Tuesday, where Arsenal will present a long-term contract offer for the Dutch international. Arsenal remain keen to avoid a bidding war for the Ajax star, who's valued at, that says, 50 million euros. Not sure how much that is in pounds. Hence why this week's negotiations will be pivotal in determining whether or not the Dutchman plays his football at the Emirates. Some journalists say there's a concern over what Hato's arrival could mean for Miles Lewis-Skelly as well, people. So it all depends. Arsenal described as the favourites to sign him. Chelsea, Liverpool, Borussia Dortmund all involved. So we're going to have to wait that one out and see what's going. Arsenal transfer for Benjamin Sesko has thrown further into doubt after a shock development, which could see. I need to zoom in, people. I'm moving like I can barely see this, man. This is weird. Let's do that again. Arsenal's transfer for Benjamin Sesko has been thrown further into doubt after a shock development, which could see Mikel Arteta turn to Gyokeres in his search for a new number 9. So now that sums up the whispers and how it starts. Again, Sesko and Gyokeres are considered to be priorities for us as we obviously look to improve our front line. We hear conflicting and conflating reports in relation to the release clause. So yeah, Gyokeres apparently is developing an edge over Sesko in Arsenal talks. Sesko had initially been Arsenal's first choice target, having attempted to sign the Sevilla last summer, only for him to agree a new contract with Leipzig. But after perhaps an underwhelming campaign for Leipzig, where he failed to better his goal record for the previous season, you lot don't want to hear that, Arsenal opened their starts to a move for Gyokeres as well. So yeah, at this point, everything